Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, beautiful hearts. We are very excited to show you this new episode of the Quantum Conversation Summit Series, Developing Psionics. Today, we're talking about awakening the pillar of light consciousness. My guest today is an Akashic Records, Akashic Knowing teacher, Sherry Mosley. And Sherry has been channeling beings from the illumined realms, particularly the Aquilorians, and so much more. She's deeply connected to Mount Shasta, and today we're talking about this pillar of light. Hi, Sherry. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Lovely to be here.
So, as we're talking about developing psionics, we're going to talk about this pillar of light, or the Shishumna, or whatever, our Anakarana, whatever the names of the Eastern religions may have for them. This is our central energy channel, and we're going to dive deeply into that. First, let's have you share your awakening experience with your own psionics. How was it for you as you developed your psychic ability, your clairs, all of this? Did you find any resistance along the way? Because that's what we all need to break free of as well. Share that story with us.
Yeah. So, I was born psychic. So you can have a psychic lineage through bloodline, or you may learn it in this lifetime, or you may remember it from other lifetimes. So it was there from the beginning. I didn't really understand what was happening when I would have this. I guess it was a precognition or premonitions, things like a car accident, or it was more than deja vu. So I was not really sure at a young age what was happening, and then definitely once I started becoming, a young adult, in the teen years, things started developing more. And my first encounters were more of with passed on souls. If I went to old buildings,
Wow.
an inn, or particularly when I did study abroad in Europe, because everything is very old over there. And so I encountered a lot there as well. And, it was fairly disruptive because passed on souls, they have their own agenda. So in shamanism, they're considered middle world spirits. And so, they still have a bit of their ego is there, right? They're not purely benevolent, right? And so this is why then we go through all this training and practice to then allow these abilities to be working with more benevolent energies and consciousnesses, so that, we're not doing almost like, navigating the regular world, uh, middle world, in this dimensional realm versus the middle world in the other dimensional realms where the passed on souls would be. We don't want to have to try to be navigating human relations with passed on souls. It would be more beneficial to come to a place of being able to connect with beings that are benevolent, in the sense that they are here to assist us with our awakening and our ascension. So at first, I was not excited about this psychic ability, and I would ignore it. I would try to just shut it off. And that didn't work, and it eventually led to health issues. And so once I got my shamanic training, I started to have more tools to connect with the spirit world. But I also came from a shamanic lineage, so learning that way was in alignment with my soul. So it may not be in alignment for someone else's soul to learn that way, but for me it was. So it is a matter of learning to work with it and understand it. It doesn't really come with a manual.
Right.
So it's a practice. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, at the beginning, not always easy.
Okay, so all right. So this is we hear this story so often that if people have these abilities online, like being able to see disincarnates, that is disconcerting for some, right? Did you ever get frightened, or did you know that you were there to help them, or did you assist them go into the light?
I was frightened. I was overwhelmed. I mean, I was young. I didn't know what was really happening.
Like what, 4, 5, 6,
No,
8?
so at that age, there's not enough like an ego development in the world to really differentiate. But when you come into adolescence, which is why in shamanism traditionally you don't start teaching too much until someone goes through that hormonal shift and the body changes, and then you're more of earth, so to speak, right? You're fully out of the spirit world coming here. Then once you're grounded here, then once you're fully grounded, then it's easier to connect to the spirit world from it's a different orientation. Yeah, so it started more in my teen years. But again, it was only when I went to places that were old, and there would be another soul. So it actually probably didn't happen until my 20s. When I was in a relationship and we were traveling, when we stayed in these old places. So and I wasn't by myself. So, and he was relatively sensitive as well. Most people know when they come to a place that is of and there's another energy presence there, right? And it's just a matter of how loud and personal is that experience. Are they talking to you? Do you just sense the energy? Yeah. So
I would think that the most of us, okay, so these disincarnates are there, whether we recognize them or not.
mhm.
And so I would say that the majority of humans don't even know that they're there. Maybe there's something about intuition or a gut feeling or sensing an energy, like maybe getting frustrated with something. That's an indicator, but we're just unconscious to it. So really remarkable that you came into this and you came back to it. So moving towards I guess we could say disincarnates are a different energy, a different frequency than higher illumined realmed beings. How did you set the record straight to say anything like that? You're not allowed in this space, or did you do that? What
Yeah,
happened there?
yeah. So it's more or less you're learning to face your fears, and then also learning that what's happening in the spirit world is pretty similar to what happens in the physical world if it's a middle world level being, right? I mean, I'm talking about people, human beings, right? And it was mostly the shamanic training that I did. They more or less fully immerse you. You throw yourself in the deep end, and it's sink or swim, more or less. You know, you're learning to connect, but then they do. I won't get into it too much, but they put you through initiations that make you face your fears, and that's
Okay.
what becoming a shaman is. You go through these initiations to face your own fears so that you can
Okay.
transcend them. And ultimately, then, yes, then the power of, oh, I see, I can just say, yeah, no, thank you. But they also
Okay.
trained us to transition souls. So I did that a few times. I do know how to do that. It's not really the work that I feel I'm here to do, it's not my highest purpose.
Mhm.
So if it crosses my path, I'll address it, but it's not my calling. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. I'm sure this is bringing up people's own experiences of ghosts. I've had an experience of a ghost in the house, and I had someone there to assist me as well in helping that soul move into the light. And so, really remarkable. I still don't know if I could do that on my own.
Mm.
So, But that's okay because we build these muscles with it, right? And so just knowing that love is the gateway for all souls, right? Just to send love to all souls. And your shamanic teaching assisted you on a deep level with that. But it's really good to know that we can be in this world, surrounded by beings, not affected by the beings, or actually knowing that there's an energy that has just shifted situations and that we can come back to our power and ultimately, like you said, not be afraid, face our fears, face all of our.
Yeah. The number one illusion is that there is a difference between being me talking to you versus me talking to someone who's on the other side of the veil. You're just really removing that fear, right? You wouldn't
Right,
allow a human being to just kind of walk all over you and call all the shots. Right? So
right, okay.
the same thing with the passed on soul. You know, if they're there, it's not all about them and their agenda. You can say no, leave the house, you know, like let's talk about this. You know, it's still more or less a human interaction because they're not free of their ego at that point.
Ah,
And that's the difference between benevolent and non benevolent. Yeah.
okay, okay, good, good. I love this. I love it. All right. Thank you for sharing that because you were wired this way. So now you have graduated. You have developed Akashic enlightenment, which is how you enter the Akashic records for your clients and many people.
Well,
And beautiful.
let me elaborate on that because you know
Yeah.
Akashic records are one part of Akashic enlightenment. I would say Akashic enlightenment is like entering in a very higher interdimensional shamanic upper world field, which is very different. The Akashic records are just, you know, if you do shamanic journey, you're not just going to the Akashic records, right? You're going either to the upper world or the lower world, and you're doing work with the higher consciousness or the subconsciousness to help you to heal and evolve. So Akashic enlightenment developed from my shamanic practices, and it does use the Akashic records, but it also opens the book of truth, which you could say is that greater Akasha or the spirit world. And that's where the enlightenment or the ascension part is, just like in a shamanic journey. The overall goal is to transcend your unconsciousness and to heal and to evolve. So, Akashic Enlightenment is just another tool to be able to go in and do that very directly. You could say, I did all the shamanic journeys to get up to a certain frequency to create this tool that you can just go in and start working at a pretty high level very quickly. I just realized my microphone isn't plugged in.
Oh, but we hear you. We hear you
Okay,
just
I don't know what
fine.
sound quality is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. So when we're talking about this pillar of light, let's have you explain that. Awakening the pillar of light. What is the job at hand? What's the task?
Yeah, so it's more or less what I was just saying in the sense that we're opening up that higher dimensional field that we're actually naturally a part of. But the pillar of light, you could say, is the transpersonal chakras above the head that we really don't have a regular practice in our current earth that our world focuses on training ourselves to do that, to go in and to access this higher dimensional realm. So through opening Akashic enlightenment, you are accessing and starting to train these chakras above the head to open to learn how to use them again. Right? It's like a muscle that we don't use. We're not used to using our subtle energy bodies. We're not focused on that in this incarnation or in this, I shouldn't say this incarnation, it's more of in this current collective unconsciousness that is shifting to be more conscious to include that. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so we're just focusing on opening those chakras through practicing through meditation and also being in the Akashic enlightenment field. And this is just one tool. there are other tools to do that. But I'd say Akashic Enlightenment is a very fast, high frequency tool. So if you're looking to get into high frequency quickly and develop those chakra spaces quickly, then that's the tool for you.
Beautiful. Now, as we are opening up those higher chakras, how is that done? Is it through meditation? Is it through just consciousness? How do we do that?
So it's more practice, right? So just as I went in and I did a shamanic journey, I actually did one every day for a year. And that's what led up to Akashic Enlightenment coming in. Or just like the monks, they go in and they meditate a long time so that they can reach these what are more or less different brainwave states. So as we're opening the chakras, they also associate to higher brainwave states. So we're getting into, the gamma, and the delta, the lambda, the high frequency states. And so it really is just practicing in a deeper interdimensional field and building that energy. So there's different practices from, you can do meditations. I offer a lot of attunements that help people go into these deeper dimensional fields and build these energy centers, like a template or a grid. My consciousness holding open your Akashic Enlightenment, I then move your consciousness into that template through doing the attunements. Right, so that's more or less the fastest way to do it, right? And then also doing your own practice in Akashic Enlightenment, where you are learning, you can ask questions, and then you can also meditate. And then I also teach the aquamarine crystal and light healing, which actually also works with the same the chakra system, as well as what they call the grail points, or in Asian medicine, they are the 3 elixirs, the life elixirs, so the upper dantian, middle dantian, and then the lower abdomen, the lower dantian. These are also used in qigong practices to connect with immortal qi. This is the more ancient practices of connecting with this, what they call the immortal body, right? And connecting with what is your immortal essence. There are very few ways to work with that and build that. But as you build all these energy centers, then you open higher and higher frequencies of consciousness, higher knowing, then the body heals and the body starts functioning in different ways as well, more functionally. So it really is practice. Yeah, and I have developed a lot of tools to assist with the acceleration of that process, because that's what we're doing right now. That's what our Earth is going through.
Wow. All right. And so share some stories of the transformation of some of your students who have gone through this development and some of the abilities that come online. So what's happening? I mean, is it like the dense debris, lower frequencies moving out, and that just allows us to expand into more information? Is that what's going on?
It's more of you're raising your perspective or consciousness. So you could say everybody's functioning here at what they call 3D, then you go up to 4D. But you could say, Akashic Enlightenment is going to bring you all the way up to 12, right? We'll work on a scale of 1 to 12. 1 is where, dirt is. 3
Yes.
is where the basic human is. But we're going all the way up to 12, which is more or less the ascended or the Christ consciousness or Buddha enlightenment level of consciousness. And you keep practicing coming up here and seeing everything from that higher perspective. So you don't have to then really clear things out. You're more or less changing your consciousness, which then your DNA, everything changes. You can't separate these things, right? They're all connected. So we're just practicing continually, coming up to this higher frequency and understanding, first, like level 1, Akashic Enlightenment, we go over past lives and, soul contracts. These are kind of basic Akashic record work. But then once we get into the higher levels, we're connecting directly to the Elohim angelics, rewriting our divine blueprint, connecting and literally downloading higher dimensional maps of consciousness to then have in our consciousness field. We go past words, right? And so this is where the attunements really help, because it's like you're then applying this higher spiritual knowing to things that are occurring in your reality, right? And the intellectual mind's the last one to really integrate it, which is more or less, me talking to somebody and helping them understand the process that they're going through, whether it's in a class or a one-on-one session. But yeah, so it's really just coming up to that, you could say, that enlightenment consciousness, right? Someone like Eckhart Tolle is someone who had that enlightenment immediately. Like, he saw it, he got it all at once. And then he said it took him years to integrate and understand his life from that place, right? So we're doing that, but we're doing it with a continued practice of that, right? And so it's continued to see it, and you see your life. So then what happens is then, I have a program going from level 1 all the way to 10. And I have some people in the level 10. And, if they were sick and had medications and all this health issues, that's gone. The other ones are in dysfunctional relationships that are codependent and unconscious. So then the relationship dissolves, and, they're liberated to feeling more free and like their true selves. And their connection to spirit it's just there. They can bring in, they're doing readings for other people. They can receive higher knowledge and information to then help others understand who they really are as their true self. It's more or less the focus. And through that process, then whatever abilities need to come online that are part of that will come on. The highest one is you're really just using the higher abilities to see the truth of something. So I've also done a Course in Miracles. They call this, well, what is real? Capital R, real. Nothing that isn't real actually exists. So you're learning to see what is real. And what can also happen, so that's the funner side of things, right? The other side is you just begin to activate awakening in other people, because you start to move into a mirror consciousness. And
wow,
a mirror consciousness is, we're not even getting specific about a psychic ability. A psychic ability really just means that you can see beyond normal seeing and knowing. You're receiving higher knowledge and information and understanding, which means you're going to see somebody as their true self, which means you're not going to step into engaging the false behavior patterns that are not real. They want you to pick up the other end of that rope because, like, oh, I identify with functioning this way. But when you can see the truth, you're seeing, well, this is not who this person truly is. And you're not really thinking about this. So this is the psychic higher knowing, right? You're just getting that higher knowledge and understanding and just not engaging anymore. There's nothing in you to want to pick up that other side, right? So that's, you could say, a psychic ability that has been aligned to connect with higher knowing and the divine, so that you can apply it for awakening and consciousness. Of course, you can also learn to see other spirits. Some are doing, automatic writing. You'll just get a download of something that you need to teach or something to be written to be shared, right? So lots of ways for things to be applied.
All right. I love that you're working to accelerate it, to creating tools to accelerate this process. And it sounds really fascinating that we can instantly shift our awareness after we build this pillar of light or work to awaken this pillar of light, that we can look at every situation from that higher perspective. So instead of getting triggered by something, like, so say if something happens, a miscommunication or a trigger, what do you do? Because, that is a really powerful tip for all of us. Do you see yourself as zooming out and going to that 12th dimensional perspective? or what do you do? What's your process when you do
Um,
get triggered? If you get triggered still, I don't even know if you do.
yeah, it's more of that I'm very aware when others are.
Okay.
And so it's more of I'd say if there's a very extreme situation, I may get triggered, like, near death level. But the
Right.
little things don't stir me up like they used to. Um,
Nice.
so for others, it's more of just realizing this person is no longer here, right? They're off and they're running something that is not here right now. So what happens is there's just a sense of becoming totally still and just kind of waiting. And so it depends. Is it happening in person? Is it on the phone? Is it in a chat? Is it in a text? Depending on a time delay, right? Then that is also going to dictate how you respond. But there's a sense of not engaging with what is coming in. There's a sense of it feeling, um, I don't know, if heavy or sticky or like it's trying to grab you, right? And so you're not going to do that because not actually going to give that person what they want at all. It's just what they think they want and need because they're running the trigger, right? Dysfunctionally. And so there's just a sense of stepping back and trying to go around it, which some people don't like, right? Especially people that aren't in this work, right? There's a sense of like they'll get really angry, because they're like, "Oh, function with me dysfunctionally," right? But then, so yeah, you just become very hyper present, right? It's you just kind of go into this very neutral space, right, and very
Very nice.
calm and centered, and just almost just observing what's happening, right? It's like you're not even the personal I just kind of drops out at that point, and you're just in this kind of like this aligned space with source or higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But you're just fully present with what is happening, and then seeing, well, what's the next step that can be taken, right? How aware are they, right? And so then it's kind of like a step by step process, right? And some people will just slam the door and walk out the door. They're not going to participate with it. I've had that happen plenty of times.
Sure.
Okay. But most people won't do that because they don't want the door slammed in their face, right? So that's the point of coming into that centered place and then accepting this person may or may not come out of this in this moment, right? And being totally fine with that because um, you're not in the the grabbing sense, right? Which a trigger is usually trying to grab something, right? And you can acknowledge someone's feelings. A trigger can also be something, scary. We just had that tsunami warning, so that was kind of like the current thing. There's just like some chaos. And it's like, okay, well, this is more of a fear base. So you acknowledge people's fears. It's like a fear of death. Okay, that's a big one. It's like, okay, well, let's be present with that. Let's acknowledge that. And then let's go past that. Okay, yeah. Instead of like, oh my gosh, identifying with it and then going all the way down. Because then it's panic and shutdown and there's no function, right? So it's really just allowing, if there's a feeling that needs to come out, but not identifying with it. But that's more of, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a trigger. Trigger is usually going to activate something from the past, right? This is more of what I'm talking about now is more of a natural disaster type fight or flight, which is different than a trigger. Trigger is deeper. It has a different feeling to it.
Ah, yes, it does.
Yeah, it tries to pull you in a lot more
The
because
trigger. Because
yeah,
that's something within us. It's debris and density within us, right?
it's
I mean, the other person or situation or place is helping to show us that that's within us. Because we
Yeah,
can't blame another person or a thing or a place, right?
well,
It,
and
it, so,
I've
do
seen some
triggers,
extreme
so
situations.
triggers, are they our responsibility? Triggers are our responsibility, I guess would be the question.
Our triggers,
An indicator to go deep within and look what's really coming up and
right,
out.
right. It is. And you have to see though, because I'm dedicated to this work, you could
Mhm.
say I hold more of a mirror consciousness than maybe an average person who's focusing on this work, you know? And so if someone engages with me, then there's going to be a higher level of this person is showing up to have this transformed. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? And
yeah.
there's because the energy field is what's really going to dictate things here. But sometimes it happens like unconsciously, like I don't know, like I go to rent a new apartment. This person's not looking to awaken, and I'm just going to rent an apartment from them, you know. But I could just let that go and say, once you're actually dialed in, that's actually not true because then I'm choosing. It's when other people are choosing to engage with me. So I'm going to erase that example because that's me going out. When someone's coming in, then that can be more differential because they're less conscious of what they're doing, if that makes sense, of why I'm engaging with this person, why am I meeting this person, right? Because there is the higher plan and frequency, which we go through when we do the level 3 Akashic enlightenment training. Yeah, everyone's aligned on a soul level to every soul and energy frequency that they're supposed to connect with. And you can see that grid, right? And then
Mhm.
how that plays out is, it's just a matter of how you step through. I don't want to put it on linear time because it's not linear time based. It's more of like when this soul is ready to meet this soul, it'll happen, right? But this, yeah, it gets very deep very quickly because then, coming back to all the people that I'm training, then they start to realize, oh my God, my last 5 sessions were all stuff that I am transcending. So the whole mirror consciousness becomes very clear very quickly. Like, oh my gosh, and I'm getting all the answers through being present with this person. And then, the idea of reality starts to shift. What's out there and what's in here and what's really the difference of that, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay. Wow. All right. So in our show, it would be beautiful to experience an attunement of some sort so that we can feel into our energies. I know we're going to talk about your Akashic Enlightenment Level 1 class, which is the beginning foundation.
mhm.
Is there something that you can do that we can experience a little bit of these frequencies, or how we can begin to sense our energy grid around us, or build that light, that pillar of light consciousness?
um, you know, mm, at the beginning stages, it really is more of the you stepping in as opposed to me bringing you into a dimensional field. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's and the attunements are, I haven't done an attunement on the fly because they're very core intentioned. They're different than a transmission. So transmission is just sharing knowledge and some energy, maybe some energy healing. An attunement is like a permanent shift of your being into a new awareness on a certain level. So there's a little bit more responsibility on my part in doing those.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I don't want to, I'm not getting anything coming in right now of like, yeah, do this.
Okay. So an attunement, thank you for that, because that you're helping to explain it, like, Reiki attunements, that sort of thing. All right. We
Yeah,
can,
it's like an initiation, a sacred initiation. And you don't want to take those things lightly. The other person needs to know
Okay.
what they are engaging with and receiving. And this is too open
Okay.
of a platform to go into something of
Yes.
that level. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. You're helping me understand the definition there of attunement
Yeah.
and transmissions. So good. That explains that we can do a mini transmission perhaps, because just feeling those frequencies, what happens in a mini transmission or a transmission? Are you
Yeah.
connecting with higher realms, channeling energy? What's going on?
Yeah. So what I do for the collective, I do these regularly. I have like a membership where we connect in either every week to the Aqualorians for a transmission from them, or we do, I go to the Temple of Light, which I think is what we'll do here. Connect to the Temple of Light and the angelics and the Ascended Masters, and we'll bring through what they have for us. And I usually work with the Elohim, which help us with our divine blueprint. And they are very active with the overall Akashic enlightenment process as well. Okay, so I think that I was sensing the Elohim beginning to connect once I kind of asked, what could we share today? Yeah, yeah. So, are we ready to go in?
Goodness, how beautiful. Thank you. We are open to receive.
Okay, all right. So, let's just go ahead and let me just see. Hmm. Okay, so I have not done this before, but they are permitting, or they're inviting us into the Elohim space directly, which I usually only go to when I do attunements. So we'll at least go to that dimensional space and see what they bring in. We're just going to begin to connect to the what I call the Elohim Palace. And if you have any intense feelings or emotions coming in, just breathe deeply through that. When we connect to the more powerful angelics, receiving the unconditional love can sometimes feel almost overwhelming to receive such pure unconditional love. And we're just still coming into the Elohim space. And more or less just welcoming you in. It looks like they're just connecting to some of the energy centers that I actually use for what's called a daily meditation. You may feel this in the third eye, the heart space, the lower abdomen, just overall in the energy field around you. Mm. They're extending an invitation to any souls that feel called to connect with them. I think they're inviting you to the one-day class that we'll be doing. Just feeling this more in the heart space. And this connection is more or less an invitation to follow your calls, let go of those fears. So you can just take whatever first step towards a calling, whatever first step you can. And there's a sense of deep peace coming in. And they're saying this is an invitation to step into your divine blueprint. So there may just be a sense of coming back home. We're just gonna slowly start to come back. And there may be a sense of not wanting to leave. This is a natural response. And just bringing with you what you can from this alignment or connection to your true self, your divine blueprint, your returned home. Bring that back with you to this dimensional space. And just coming all the way back to the room and space that you're in. Mm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is so peaceful and full. I want to use the word full.
Yeah.
Peaceful and full,
Yeah,
aligned.
coming back to that sense of completion, of true full self. So
Yes.
this is the space you come to when somebody else is triggered. You come here to your true self, and then you can see, from this place, nothing else matters unless they join you in this place, because this is what's true.
Is it fair to say that when we can hold a space like this, that it will, hopefully it'll raise the other person? It's
Yeah,
almost kind of like the Ho'oponopono, right?
yeah.
That
So
the
yes,
energetics of it is, it's the energetics. Our energetics would help the other. There's that word attune again, or match the frequency.
match the frequency. Because as soon as someone then, so when I do a reading for somebody, I'm going to bring them into the space. And so it's like wherever they're drowning in whatever it is that's going on, then they come to this place and it's like, oh, okay. Once you get that fresh air experience, you can't undo that, right? Because then once you go back into that reality, you're like, wait, I experienced myself without that. Now it's coming in again, but I know I experienced it without that. And it depends how deep something is, of how long it takes to clear something. And it's always best if you're doing your own work for yourself. But you could say someone, I'll use Eckhart Tolle because everybody usually knows him. He is going to a place of very pure presence, which is more or less what we're doing, right? He used to teach A Course in Miracles a long, long time ago, right? And so, you do a meditation with him. I've done some live things and it feels like he's channeling. I haven't been able to see exactly what realm he's going into, but I've seen some of where the other Course in Miracles teachers go, and they're just channeling. They don't call it that, but they're channeling or teaching from a higher dimensional field that they've accessed through the frequency of presence or enlightenment, right? And so, I mean, that's all that really matters. There's a million ways to get there, and you just want to get rid of the um, intellectual, or you could say emotional immaturities that would block the purity of that coming in, right? But yeah, you're like glowing.
Well, no, I can see the beauty of that because, and I can actually see the world doing this
Yeah,
in the face of everything. There's solution energy here.
yeah.
There's this pure presence. There's no problems. There's no problem here in this present. And so,
Well,
no,
that's the teaching. The only
that's the
problem is in the mind.
the only problem is in the mind. So when we do this,
Yeah.
like when we connect like that, this allows us to know what we know, what we know, what we know within.
Yes.
So,
So your core
it,
truth, the absolute truth of what is actually real, which is
and it
presence. Yeah.
and it reminds me when we're in this space, when we're calm, when we're present and tuned in, and you mentioned that you've got students who automatically write, or that's where I can sit and write something. I can ask a question. We can connect to our higher self. And the information that comes from that is coming from this place.
Yes.
So we're all natural channels, but you've just showed us we have to get out of the mind and we have to get into this pillar and we have to connect. We have to go interdimensional.
Which is a frequency shift. So Akashic Enlightenment's just suddenly throwing you into a very high frequency, right? I have everything open when we do these sessions. It's open right now. So when I connect to the Elohim, we're already in the Akashic Enlightenment field. I open it at the beginning of the talk. So you may even feel that when you first come in, right? But like, oh, there's people are like, why do I feel like I'm in another world when I listen to your videos?
Right.
That's what that is. You're in this higher dimensional field, but the more that you practice in it, you just function in that frequency. And that's ultimately what we're all doing. It's learning. I mean, you can do it with sound healing, shamanic drumming. Akashic Enlightenment is just a fast tool to get to the high frequency quickly instead of having, because it could take you a long time to get up to the high frequency. I mean, what we just experienced, that in the past, it would take a long time to get to that level of depth, purity, and awareness. But we're on such an accelerated route right now, awakening. We're getting tools that are like, we need to get there, we need to drop in, let go of the garbage, and get aligned and just go with what's real. We're saving, of course, Miracles calls it, we're saving time.
I love that. Okay. All right. So Akashic Enlightenment, Akashic Enlightenment. We want to learn. We want to learn what that is. You've got level 1 for us in a special offer today. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah,
Can you
it's the
share
first
more?
class of
Yeah.
level 1. There are 5 classes.
Okay.
This is the first class, but it's the
Okay.
core material of how to get in there.
Great. All right. So tell us what this is all about, what we can learn, and how we incorporate it in our lives.
Yeah, so you're going to receive a PDF handout with all the information, and it's going to have the Akashic Enlightenment, what's called the Gateway Prayer. It's really just saying, you could say, a high-powered mantra with your name and putting you into this higher dimensional frequency, and then learning to, as we were just talking about, receive higher knowledge from there, right? But the first class, you're going to get aligned with using the frequency. Okay, and you're going to learn how to responsibly use it, right? Again, this is initiation. We're going to be responsible with this level of consciousness, right? So that we can truly help ourselves and then truly help others through helping ourselves. So we'll go through learning how to do that. I'll take you through some kind of preparatory meditations and then a quick daily meditation that you can practice. And then we'll go through some questions that you get to receive and write down some higher knowledge that is in association with attuning you to working with the prayer. So we're doing kind of a written attunement where you receive the knowledge via questions that you ask and then you write it down. So you're attuning yourself through opening it and then receiving higher knowledge. So we'll be doing a lot. The first class has a lot, so we'll be busy the whole time for 90 minutes. Yeah. And
Yes.
then you can easily move forward with that and have a daily practice, or we can continue going into the upper levels if you feel called to do that.
Beautiful. So I direct all of our viewers and listeners to check out the offer and look at the benefits that you can receive. I want to just share that some of these benefits are clearing energy that's not yours so that we can walk in our own energy instead. I think this is really important at this time. In a way, I want to call it discernment, discernment of energy.
Wisdom,
Wisdom,
Yeah.
wisdom to truly know, oh, that's not me, and then what to do about it and to clear it. And also, I love how we can upgrade the energetic and light bodies. That's pretty important at this time as well. So this work naturally, like what we did today, that naturally raises our light body frequency. Can you share more on what's happening with the energetics?
And in what we just did, or in the class one?
In the
Or
class,
oh,
yeah, and what we did,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, well, it's really getting you used to working in Akashic enlightenment, because most people are new. Sometimes there's old souls that are like, "Oh yeah, I'm familiar," and they just take off with it. But most people are learning to hold this level of frequency. So you may actually be tired at the beginning, right? As you turn this into a daily practice, you may be tired because you're not used to functioning in such a high functioning way, right? Fear is a lower frequency, right? We could even talk about it just as a brainwave frequency, right? And so as you practice being in this higher frequency, you may be more tired because you're not used to functioning in that way. Right? So I call it the spiritual gym. You're
Mhm.
going to work out these higher energy bodies to learn to hold open and to receive, right? And then become more normalized in that way of functioning instead of a more fear based world, right? And so that is, you're just practicing keeping the frequency high, so to speak, but also in alignment in that high frequency, right?
Thank you. Okay, so the course, the level one, class one, comes with 4 meditations to assist us to do that. And practicing this on a daily, moment to moment level, right? Like moment to moment,
Yeah, you'll walk away with enough to just do this every morning.
every morning. And
That's
then that, of course, will set the pace of the day.
Yep, exactly. And ultimately, then, once you get very adept at it, then you're not creating more karmic cycles, right? Because you're staying in alignment more and more and more. So then your life simplifies. You're not creating all this karma that then you have to go ahead and correct again, right? So the more that you do it, maybe the less you'll experience when you go in every morning because you're already so aligned and your life is aligned. And it just, it also really depends where your starting point is. If you had like a lot of trauma early in life, you'll have more to clear, as opposed to somebody that, they had some sort of magical golden childhood, with a very loving parents, which of course, there's plenty of families out there that the parents, they already did this work. They're very conscious and loving and they raise their child with this, with the child's like, well, I want to do some deeper inner work for myself just to connect to myself more. Then they may go more quickly. There's less false patterns to clear and step out of. Right. So it's a different process for each soul. Yeah.
Yes. And listening to that, it just reminds us how, wow, how we can really assist the children and the young ones and give them a huge leg up in life by being those loving parents and guides for them and being very supportive. And so, as our world is shifting, this is really important as we're developing new systems for education and for community and all of that. So, you're doing tremendous work, Sherry. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing the energy transmission today, for lifting us. We feel pristine, pristine. It feels, I mean, the Elohim and the angelic realm, you had a huge smile on your face at one point, and this is almost like, bliss. And this is what we can have in our life and notice our world as it shifts when we come from this bliss. How, as we end our conversation, how has your transformation by doing this work assisted in your life?
It cleans out everything that is not in this frequency. So, heck, you need to be prepared for that as well. Yeah.
For things to leave,
Yes. Yeah. And
people.
I'll just say it's going to happen whether you want it to or not, because that is just what evolution is. But this
Okay,
just makes you conscious and maybe
conscious.
accelerates the process and gives you the tools to navigate it. as opposed to going so forward in a misaligned life that one day you lose your job, you lose your house, you lose your partner. And God's like, let's stop doing this. You're totally off track, right? And that's just an extreme example. I'm not saying everybody is at that level, but
Yeah.
it's a
It's
dismantling process. But overall, life becomes very peaceful. It's a very simple, peaceful life. Almost, you could say, like living like a monk.
yeah, conscious,
Yeah,
it's conscious. I lately I've been witnessing in my own life, looking in hindsight, which is 2020, and seeing where I was unconscious, like acting from being unconscious, creating something unconsciously, just doing something unconsciously, just like, oh, okay, let's just do it. But then it's like, wow, I could have added more of my energy to it from an alignment perspective.
yeah.
So
That's the
some of
fourth
us
thing,
get it in little
push,
doses.
which,
Okay.
so that's a good example because that takes chi. That's going to burn your energy as opposed to, you could say, going with the flow, being conscious, realizing when there's resistance in something or that maybe you're standing in your own way and then stopping, waiting till it clears. Then the correct way of doing something, if it needs to be done, will come in, right? So there's more flow and an understanding. And I've had people say, how do you manifest things so quickly? Okay, that's the example of, you could say, like an super accelerated life when you're in alignment. You just know, yes, yes, no, no, yes, yes. You don't have to pause. You just go,
I love that.
right?
I
Um,
love that. We all want that.
yeah. So if things need to change, there's enough consciousness to just, you're not holding on, right? You're just present with the process, right? You'll go through grief if you need to, but there's not like an identification with it, right? And so things, yeah. I mean, my living situations and office situations have changed as I've gone along because of that. And it's always leveled up. Yep.
Okay. We're
Yeah.
always leveling up. If we're unconscious, we can level down. But I think consciousness, awareness can only level us up.
Yeah. So once you're in here, you can't, it's like you took the red pill. You can't go back to sleep. You can't start unseeing, if you're doing the practice every day, you can't start unseeing. You're going to be aware of what's out of alignment. You
Yes.
could still
Okay.
have free will to shoot yourself in the foot and do things that are painful and creating suffering and identifying the suffering, but you're going to be aware that you're doing it.
Yes. I love that. I do love that. Okay. Well, what a beautiful opportunity for people to learn more and to dive deep on this and to get started in this first level, this first class. Again, I'm going to invite everyone watching and listening to look at the link attached to this video, wherever you're watching it, or the page that got you to this program, and check it out. It's an immediate download with Sherry Mosley, and you can get started right away with these valuable tools and watch the shift in your life.
Yeah.
Sherry, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add about this program or even the way that we're moving forward on the earth at this time?
Yeah. So the number one, this is the first time I've offered this like this. I usually only teach this. I haven't offered this like on an open platform like this before. Usually we do like secondary programs of transmissions. This is what I call the core material. So as the Elohim said, if you feel called, then it's for you. Most people will feel a calling to do this. Most people who contact me say, I was drawn to your website. I was looking for something on Google and then I ended up at yours. And I just felt so drawn to it. So there will be a knowing, a deeper part. So that's your invitation to know to do this. Okay, it's the frequency. It's not even me. It's the frequency. It's for you. Okay, and then that is going to accelerate as we go through this next 20 years of Pluto and Aquarius. Right, we have finished Pluto and Capricorn. We are in Pluto and Aquarius. 2025 is going to be a monumental year of many souls awakening. I already saw it starting in 2024. And so I'm seeing that this is just going to continue to escalate quickly of people awakening, maybe not knowing what's happening, right? And just, knowing that this is a safe place to come. That's why this tool is here. When I received Akashic Enlightenment, this was in 2015, and they told me, they're like, you have to put this out there because people are going to need this. They're not going to know what's happening to them. You have to do this. I said, what are you talking about? And so, of course, I do it anyway because I follow the guidance. But then by the time 2020 came, that's when I was like, okay, now I see. This is no joke anymore. Everything's coming down. So, and people are going to need a life raft, And everyone's not going to go at once, but the more that we go on, the bigger the waves of awakening they get. So more souls are coming in. So you're not alone. If you're seeing this, you're not alone going through this process. Many souls have, and many are enjoying the program. So there's assistance and divine connection here for you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. And again, I want to just say this is a live class coming up. Check the webpage here for the dates and times of that, and it will be recorded if you can't join live.
Absolutely. Easy to do a replay. Very
easy to do in replay, and you want that replay so you can come back and fully integrate the tools that are included in this. What a powerful program. Thank you for that, Sherry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are pleased to have this new shift in our vibration from you. And I thank you so much. Final thoughts?
I just enjoy the journey that's coming here. It's going to be a powerful journey, and I'm very grateful to be able to do this. Nothing makes me happier than going through teaching Akashic Enlightenment with everybody. It's my favorite thing of all the things that I teach and do now. Teaching Akashic Enlightenment is my core calling. I literally downloaded it and wrote it because I was guided to, and so I love teaching it. So I love to bring you through the process of connecting to this level of yourself. Yeah, look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry Mosley. Beautiful, with Akashic Enlightenment. Again, we invite you to learn this beautiful skill and watch your life shift, accelerate into deeper, higher consciousness. Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, everyone, for your light.
Okay.
Namaste.
Okay.
Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery.